MQM UK, who are identified as having played a significant role in the planning and carrying out of the murder. Absconding accused have been identified, as well as the leadership of MQM UK's role in the murder of Dr.
The prosecutor in his remarks has said that this is the first time that the two countries have worked on a partnership like this.
The cooperation that we've seen through the FIA and Scotland Yard is significant.
This is only one chapter which has been closed now. It's the start of another chapter. डॉक्टर इमरान फारूक के कत्ल केस में पाकिस्तान में एंटी टेररिज्म कोर्ट ने 3 लोगों को सज़ाएं सुना दी हैं और उनको जुर्माना भी आयद किया है, लेकिन 3 लोग हैं जो बरतानिया में हैं, जिसमें मुत्तहिदा के बानी अल्ताफ़ हुसैन है, मोहम्मद अनवर हैं और अल्ताफ़ हुसैन के कज़न है इफ्तिखार हुसैन। उनके हवाले से जजमेंट में ज़िक्र आया है, उनको जो इश्तहारी करार दे दिया गया है और कोर्ट में ये कहा गया है कि वो दोनों ममालिक से उम्मीद करते हैं कि उनके एक्सट्रेडिशन के हवाले से इक़दाम लिए जाएंगे। हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं टोबी कैडमैन, जो बरतानिया में बैरिस्टर के तौर पर काम करते हैं, जो पाकिस्तानी हुकूमत है उसके यहाँ पर लीगल काउंसल हैं और इस पूरे ट्रायल के दौरान वो पाकिस्तान में भी मौजूद रहे और पिछले कई सालों से वो पाकिस्तान के बिहाफ पर स्कॉटलैंड यार्ड से, चाहे मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का केस हो या डॉक्टर इमरान फारूक का कत्ल केस हो, टोबी कैडमैन पाकिस्तान को असिस्ट करते रहे, पाकिस्तान को मशवरा देते रहे। हम उनसे जानते हैं कि ये इस केस को ये कितना सिग्निफिकेंटली इसको देखते हैं, इम्पॉर्टेंट केस कितना है और इसके फ्यूचर, चूँकि ये केस का एक चैप्टर अभी क्लोज हुआ है, जो दूसरा चैप्टर है वो अभी शुरू हुआ। हम टोबी कैडमैन से जानते हैं कि इस केस में हो गया। टोबी, if you could tell us, how do you see how significant the outcome of this case is?
Well, I think the outcome is hugely significant. It is the result of cooperation that we have seen between the authorities in Pakistan and the authorities in the United Kingdom. And so that is hugely significant that the trial has now come to a conclusion successfully, and 3 individuals have now been convicted and received substantial sentences for their role in the murder of Dr Imran Farooq. We've also seen in the judgment that a number of other absconding accused have been identified, as well as the leadership of MQM UK's role in the murder of Dr Imran Farooq, and so that in itself is significant.
We have seen that the evidence that was presented before the court in Pakistan, Scotland Yard has hailed it as a huge breakthrough in terms of the mutual legal assistance and the cooperation between 2 countries. What does it signify in terms of going forward from here?
I think the Metropolitan Police is quite right, and I'm sure the British government and the Home Office would say the same, that this is hugely significant in terms of the cooperation and the way that the mutual legal assistance has been dealt with. Obviously I was engaged in 2018 to assist in that process to ensure that the evidence was transferred from the United Kingdom, because the vast majority of the evidence that was presented at trial was evidence that was collected by SO15, so the Metropolitan Police Counter-Terrorism Command here in London. So for that reason it is significant. I think we will see more cooperation between the 2 states. They've obviously made combating corruption and serious crime a priority, and so I think the cooperation that we've seen through the FIA and Scotland Yard is significant, and I think we're obviously going to see that expanded over time. I think it shows the credible attempts that are being made by the Pakistan government under Imran Khan. I think that it is being viewed in a partnership rather than an adversary, as it may have been in the past. And I think both states have recognised that it is through cooperation like this that you can really make a difference.
The prosecutor in his remarks has said that this is the first time that the 2 countries have worked on a partnership like this, call it like mutual legal assistance. So is it correct that this is the first time that such a cooperation has happened between the 2 countries? Because we have seen that from the Pakistani side, there is quite often that Britain gets from Pakistan what Britain needs. but it clearly looks like this is probably the first time that Pakistan actually got from Britain, but Pakistan also needed for prosecution on Pakistani soil.
Well, I think it's a fair criticism that has been made in the past that it may have been a one-way relationship, is that Pakistan has been required to provide information to the United Kingdom, but the United Kingdom hasn't always provided that same level of support. I think what the prosecutor has said is in relation to this particular case, so it's not the first time that the Metropolitan Police and the British authorities have cooperated with the Pakistani authorities, and it's certainly not the first time a case where a murder has been committed outside of the jurisdiction has been prosecuted in a foreign country. I mean, that has happened before, but I think what's significant in this case, it is the first time that there has been this level of cooperation between the British authorities and the Pakistan authorities. It is the first time that British police officers have testified live in court. We had the lead investigator, Detective Chief Inspector Greenaway, who gave evidence and exhibited all of the statements and material. But you will have also seen that there were a large number of witnesses, police officers, forensic scientific experts, and civilian witnesses that testified via video link. That is the first time that's happened. So I think what the Pakistan government has said and the authorities have said, that this is historic and this is unique, is absolutely correct.
The press statement issued by Scotland Yard only mentions the conviction of one person in Pakistan, that is Mohsin Ali Syed, who was actually present in Britain at the time of the killing of Dr Imran Farooq. This press release does not mention the conviction of other two, the Pakistani national. What is the reason for that? I mean, how does Metropolitan Police see this case, that it only talks about the conviction of only one person? And going forward, where do you see this case now going? Now that, I mean, this is the close of, this is only one chapter which has been closed, now it's the start of another chapter.
Well, to your first question, it wouldn't really be appropriate for me to second guess why the Metropolitan Police have issued a statement in such a way. I think what's important to note is that the individual who was mentioned in their press statement was the focus of their investigations. So whilst the other two may not have been the main focus of their investigations, that could be a reason for why they focused on this particular individual. And because the evidence that was presented, the individual who was mentioned, Syed Mohsin Ali, played the most significant role in the carrying out of the murder, in addition to the other accused who's an absconder. So that may well be a reason for why they've only mentioned one of the accused. But that doesn't undermine the significance of their statement. Their statement's very strong, very supportive of the entire process, and actually at the end of their statement it says very clearly that if there are questions arising out of the judgment or questions related to any other person, those questions should be directed to the Pakistan authorities, and that is the correct approach to take. In terms of the second question, this being only half of the story, yes, it's right that there were a number of other accused who are absconders who are set out. There are leading figures within the MQM UK who are identified as having played a significant role in the planning and the carrying out of the murder. Now it will be a matter for the authorities on both sides to consider whether there is sufficient evidence now to charge these individuals. Certainly the judge in Pakistan considers that there is, but obviously that's
But they have not been named in the judgment.
Well, they have been named in the judgment.
The three individuals have been.
Yes, very clearly those three individuals have been named in the judgment. But it will now be a matter for the authorities to consider whether there is now sufficient evidence to charge them in this country, as at least two of them, possibly three of them, are here. So that decision will need to be made. If the British authorities do not consider that there is sufficient evidence to charge them here, then of course an extradition request can be made by Pakistan to return them to Pakistan to stand trial. Now, as we know, ordinarily the United Kingdom would not extradite any individual to Pakistan where there is the risk of the death penalty. and certainly the trial judge in his sentencing, the three accused today said that under normal circumstances they should have received the death penalty. But because of the agreements that were reached between the two countries, the death penalty was not applicable. So that issue has already been partly resolved, and that would have to be the same for any other person who potentially stands trial. The other question, obviously, which is always asked in an extradition request, is whether they can be guaranteed a fair trial. Well, in the correspondence between the Home Office and the Pakistan authorities in the transferring the evidence through mutual legal assistance, the UK authorities have acknowledged that there is a fair trial and are satisfied with the procedures in place. So that question has also been partly answered. So without wishing to predict what a English magistrate may decide on an extradition request, I think that there is a solid basis now, if the evidence is strong enough, and if there is a prima facie case against any of these additional absconding accused, that they can be extradited. In the alternative, they could be put on trial here.
Now, going forward, do you think Altaf Hussain, Muhammad Anwar and Iftikhar, should they be worried after this? And when you look at the extradition request and the rest of the cases, it often has been the case that it has been cited that in Pakistan, evidence can be obtained through torture as well. I don't know whether this was a factor in this case or not, but if Altaf Hussain, Anwar and Iftikhar raise this spectre before the courts or before the authorities, that because they have been wanted in Pakistan for such a long time, where do you then see this case going?
Well, if an extradition request is made against any individual, and I'm not going to go into naming names of particular individuals, but if any extradition request is made of any suspect who is in this country, they are entitled to raise challenges to that extradition. They are entitled to argue that there is a risk of torture in Pakistan, and they would have to provide credible evidence to show that. They can't just raise an argument without any basis. And considering that the British government has been satisfied sufficiently to transfer evidence to the Pakistan authorities to put these three individuals on trial and convict them, bearing in mind that it is the UK evidence which has formed the large part of the conviction, as summarised by the trial judge, then that is going to be a difficult question or a difficult challenge for them to raise now, that they wouldn't receive a fair trial and they are at risk of torture. I think there would be sufficient attention on this case. Pakistan would have to provide an assurance that any person extradited from the United Kingdom would be detained in circumstances which is consistent with international law and consistent with basic conditions as we would understand it in this country. Mm-hmm. But of course they are entitled to raise their argument in proceedings here. Whether they would be successful or not is another matter entirely.
Do you think that there is some evidence, or there is a large number of evidence which the investigators in this country may have held for some kind of prosecution in this country, or the evidence which was probably not handed over to Pakistan, but the evidence which could be relevant for any kind of future action in the UK?
What I can say is that the request that I assisted the Attorney General of the time with in the mutual legal assistance contained a number of pieces of evidence that the Pakistani authorities required. And those pieces of evidence were clearly identified by the Pakistani authorities as what was required to put these three on trial. All of that evidence, as far as was relevant to the trial, was provided. So I don't think it's right to say evidence was withheld or not transferred, because there was a relationship based on mutual trust and understanding between the two states. But what it may require is to reinvestigate, to go back and look at the evidence again and see if there is anything further that changes the position now. There may be evidence in Pakistan that was not known to the British authorities that they may want to consider now. So there are a whole number of considerations that will now need to be carefully deliberated upon, and I'm sure that will happen.
Toby Cadman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.